Good morning, students. Our lesson for today is active voice and passive voice. In grammar, the voice of a verb describes the relationship between the action that the verb expresses and the participants are identified by its argument, that is, the subject or the object. There are of voice, active voice and passive voice. When the subject of a sentence performs the verb's action, we say that the sentence is in the active voice. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct and clear tone. Here are some short and examples of active voice. Examples of active voice. The first sentence, the dog jumped onto the boy. Here, the dog is the subject because it is the dog in this sentence who is performing an action. And in this sentence, it is being described what is doing. The dog is jumping. So here, the dog becomes the subject because the dog is performing an action. The next sentence, Christy will give a book report to the class. Here, Christy will become the subject because it is that the action will be performed by Christy. And what will she do? She will give. Will give becomes the verb and Christy becomes the subject over here. The third sentence, the computer ate my paper. Here the computer is doing something, so the computer becomes the subject. It ate the paper. So computer here becomes the subject. Passive voice is used when we want to emphasize the action, that is the verb and the object of a sentence rather than subject. This means that the subject is either less important than the action itself or that we don't know who or what the subject is. Here you have few examples. Please go through it. The first example is that the boy was jumped on by the dog. Here the boy becomes the subject and by he jumped on it was by the dog. Next, the book report will be given by Christy to the class. I have given the active voice of this particular sentence in the active voice portion. Here the book subject and Christy will give that book report to the class. Okay. The third one. My paper was eaten by the computer. Here the my paper becomes the subject. In writing, always consider whether you should use the passive voice or the active voice. It will depend on what you or the writer wants to convey. If the writer or the person writing wants to draw attention to the doer, use the passive voice. If the person's intention is to put the focus on the action, then the person should go for the active voice. Some people believe that sentences should be written in the active voice wherever possible. This might be because doing so can make one's writing more concise. As can be seen in the given example, the passive voice requires more words. When improperly written, it can also sound awkward and vague, especially when the subject of the sentence is only implied and not deliberately mentioned.